This is gonna be an elevated pigeon stretch, which really is just a hip external rotation stretch for the posterior capsule of your hip joint. And we are doing PAILs rails. So the first part of this video is going to be how to set up and get into the stretch and make sure that you are feeling what you need to feel and avoiding what we should be avoiding. And then from there, we'll move into how to perform the PAILs rails contractions to make sure that we are increasing our usable ranges of motion and strength at those new ranges of motion. So first, the stretch. There's several ways to set the stretch up. The easiest and most simple is going to be finding a box, a chair, an ottoman, something that you can put your leg onto like so. I have quite a bit of hip external rotation, so this is perfect for me. I could even go a little higher. If you are really limited in your hip external rotation and you can't get into this position and you are kind of all over the place, we're gonna talk about some ways to modify this. So this would be the start position. If you feel hip or groin pinching here in your front of your hip, this also is too progressed for you. So let's talk about modifying. A way to regress this or make this work for you is going to be adding 1 or 2 yoga blocks under your knee to decrease the amount of hip external rotation that we're in, and your ankle will still be on the ground. This can also be done by using an incline bench and putting your leg on that. The other option for this will be using a slant board and putting that on the bench as well. All of these do the same thing, which is take you out of the max hip external rotation into an amount that you can do, where your pelvis stays relatively even, so we can really work on finding the stretch and targeting the area we want. From here, you want to feel not a super intense stretch, but maybe a mild, and then we can work on leaning and sinking into the stretch a little bit. If it's already really stretchy and hard as you just get into the position, it's probably too progressed. We wanna own the position and not be kind of forced out of the position. So make sure we find a little bit of a stretch. You should feel the deep part of your glutes kind of on stretch here a little bit. To lean into it, we are going to think about reaching our tailbone behind us, leading with our belly button forward, staying nice and long through the spine, and maybe bending our stance leg here a little bit. You should feel just an increased stretch there. From here, you're gonna hold that stretch for about 2 minutes, and that is the stretching part of the exercise. You wanna think about relaxing into this. This should not be grinning and bearing it, and you should also not feel like you're falling over. If you do, use something for support or regress the exercise a little bit. We also wanna make sure, again, we're avoiding that closing angle symptom in your groin. Once the stretch is over, then we're gonna do PAILs and rails. PAILs contraction is going to be first, contracting the stuff that you are stretching, which we are going to think about a scale under your foot, and you're going to press into the scale to make that number go up. That is going to be thinking about this motion. The muscles that do that are gonna be what you contract. It's gonna be your deep glute muscles where you just felt the stretch. You might feel a slight reduction in the stretch, which is totally fine. Ramp that up to the desired intensity, hold for 30 seconds or 20 seconds as prescribed. Make sure we are not using our pelvis. So if you wanna keep your hands here so that you can only feel your glute working, that's all I want. Once that 20 to 30 seconds is done, we are gonna contract rails. So moving into rails contraction would be pulling you deeper into the stretch and or just pulling you into external rotation. Your leg is glued to the ground, but you are thinking about lifting into more external rotation, which is this movement, right? So we're thinking about rotating that thigh up. Because your leg's glued to the ground, it may make your ankle a little bit lighter, but it might just pull you into a little deeper stretch. We are not going to come out of that long spine, tailbone still back towards the back wall. Once you have gotten up to the desired intensity, ramped that contraction up, you're gonna hold for about 20 to 30 seconds, kind of really thinking about rotating that up without hiking our pelvis, holding, ramping back down, and then that is going to be the 1 round of PAILs rails for your hip external rotation or elevated pigeon stretch. In the future, you're going to want to probably add additional sets of those PAILs rails to progress, but this is where we start.